Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End. I haven't had my coffee yet. This is very flat. A Deep Listens podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. The joke is, it's like a unifying theme across the Deep Listens platform, as we're all very deep. We all like Shenmue. My name is Jeff Rude, the host and pros edda of this operation. We also like, other things deep people like. Perks of Being a Wallflower, Dream Theater.
Proust.
The voice you just heard, as I am the pros edda, that was the Romance of the Three Kingdoms over there. It's Braden, Arbitrary Water Redacted. How would you define yourself?
I would define myself as deep as a swimming pool that is not properly ventilated, so it just smells like chlorine. That's how deep I am.
I'd prefer the chlorine. I knew some pool cleaners. I knew firefighters in Texas whose moonlight thing was pool cleaning. And I'd seen a lot of bad pools in my childhood as a result, because I would be around while these pools were being cleaned. I'd take the chlorine. I'd take no pool over pool, though, so I don't know. Also joining us, the very ponderously deep, the Finnegan's Wake of the show, Chris, Zombie Pie Redacted. Hello.
I'm a man of culture. My favorite book is The Da Vinci Code, and also my favorite era of WWF, WWE wrestling is the early 90s after Hogan got out. Let's talk about the gobbledygooker, because it's November, bitch. And that's all the DMCA will allow me to do. How we doing? Let's talk about fucking mechanics and recruiting optional characters and, auto battling. That's good.
You got me with the gobbledygooker last year. You got me with it again. I'm not gonna corpse on my show. You're not gonna elicit a response.
This episode's probably gonna go up around Thanksgiving, huh?
I will. That is on. That's someone else's choice. Yeah. We'll see if we get this turned around in a week. Yeah. Welcome. This is another hot episode of Off the Deep End. So plans changed around the book based the film based on a book based game exploration. So clearly, Braden's backup was keep us in, classic works of literature space when he pulled this out of his ass. And we'll get to it in a second. But before that, I would like to give you both some space to talk a little bit about what you did for this purported extra life.
Braden hasn't gone yet. He goes next week. But I did 3 hours of Draken. If we want to talk about my stream, I later realized I probably should have played Loom, LucasArts' misunderstood redheaded stepchild of an adventure game.
Oh, yes.
But instead I played 3 hours of Draken.
The classic TurboGrafx CD game, Loom.
Okay.
It's on there.
You got Might and Magic 3 is on the TurboGrafx CD, and it has a bonkers crazy soundtrack.
All those
Turbo CD games.
Weird. What a wonderful platform.
Just Japanese dance hall music.
Braden, we have to be quiet. We're on a podcast with someone who thinks that the TurboGrafx is a better console than the 360.
I may back away from that position ever.
You fucking coward.
They're both good. I'll give you that. They're both better than the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal from Gino. My obsession is Thor High Heels, everyone's favorite little low country boy, who dropped a mysterious PS3 video last night that I did not watch until an early hour that I don't usually see. But boy, that was a fine work that just managed to squeeze so much blood from such a terrible stone. I recently played maybe the first 2 or 3 hours of Infamous. I have to scaffold this somewhat. I live in a weird pocket neighborhood that has not a lot going on. We have like a fire EMT station. We have 2 little bodegas. There's no bank. There's no, there's an elementary school. That is it. There's not a lot for services. But one of these 2 bodegas their sign, which is quite old, says video games on it. Like, you go in there, you can get your like $5 gallon of milk. And then at some point they had video games, which I think is crazy. They were probably selling copies of Mario. But I went in there, I've gone in there a couple times now, and they still have video games. They have a glass display case. And on the bottom of it, they have a handful of Korean PlayStation 3 and 4 games. And it's mostly copies of MLB The Show in Korean. But they had a Korean copy of Infamous, which I found delicious. So I figured I would buy one of the last video games that you could buy in Telecom. Bought Infamous, which just runs in English on an American PS3. That is a game just crafted entirely out of scum. It's awful. It's a terrible, terrible game. I could not believe my eyes. Like every trope you want from that generation, which is touched on in that film, the bloom, the everything is like glistening, the gray-brown everything, the bald shit boy protag dude, the like morality boiling down to like, how do you want to blow up the orphanage? Like, it's amazing. What a piece of shit.
There is a part in that video where he says, like, there are still people out there who claim that games from that era are modern, and they aren't.
No, but I think it's a formative year. It's the last. Here's the weird thing, considering what direction all of these consoles are going in, like how console revisions are now working, it's probably going to be the last, let's say, in quotations, true console generation we'll get.
Yeah.
Yeah. They aren't just like PCs, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have like something bespoke to them. Even the Switch is like, it's like a
tablet.
It's a tablet, and
think about it.
It's ARM parts that are from what was, ostensibly a PC put out by NVIDIA, like a computer part company. Yeah, yeah. They were. I don't know. What a wonderful
PlayStation 3 had esoteric, weird chips that were hard to develop for.
Yeah, remember?
And as a result, you got classics like Infamous. And I'm just gonna hammer Siren Blood Curse again, because that is one of the more strange experiences I've had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to noted piece of shit boy shit stain Dave Lang talk about it, and he was talking about how making games for the PS3 during launch was fucking wild. It's like, they promised multiple things, and this comes up in the video, but like from the perspective of a developer, he was talking about how like we were promised this, and this on launch, and like it was like the most half-baked, like nothing was working, the CPU and GPU issues, like it was one of the hardest consoles to develop a launch era game, which is already a hard thing to do.
Yep. Yeah. Half the documentation wasn't in English.
The renders they were showing of the PlayStation 3 early on, one of them, Thor pulled up in that video, it had 3 Ethernet ports on the back of it. Why? Like, in 2006, what would you even do with, like, multiple gigabit Ethernet ports? Like, and I guess the answer is people were doing Linux shit on there, I suppose. Like,
and like Ken Kutaragi didn't want to put in a GPU. They thought they could go by like their special CPU power alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking wild.
Speaking of the PlayStation 3, I used that to play our game this week.
Ah!
Genso Suikoden, a game by Konami, makers of
Tokyo, specifically. Yes,
video games, I think, and also pachinko and hell.
Noted Pachi maker Konami,
makers of the Silent Hill 3 Patchy slot machine.
Erotic violence extraordinaire. Yeah, I have been to Japan exactly once and cruised by a lot of Konami facility. None of them were related to Suikoden. All of them probably related. People touching you. The PlayStation 3 was a fine way to play Suikoden. That's how I was revisiting this game as well. Did you know that Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo developed this game for Konami? It was released originally on the PlayStation 1, the original one, December 15th, 1995, in Japan. Subsequently came out on the Sega Saturn, Windows 98 PC, And then the version that I think at least 2 of us played it on, the PlayStation Network release. Chris, how did you play this?
I played the emulated version of the Saturn game.
Really?
Hey guys, I got Saturn emulation to work. I figured it out.
One step closer to Sakura Tyson.
One step closer to Panzer Dragoon Saga. A good
Step
game
closer
to the edge.
Yeah, you guys were right. It wasn't actually that hard. Oh wait, the cops.
Yeah, I'm going. I can do both. I can be your Angle or your Devil, because I got that Saturn emulation running in Metafin, and I'm pretty happy with how that works. And my Saturn is currently up in Seattle getting recapped.
For shits and giggles, I decided to find a ROM rip of the Windows version, and boy,
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
Tell us about your experiences with the Windows version of this game.
So, I don't know if you guys have seen the Windows version of it, but it treats all of the different screens as different, like, panels, like Windows panels.
Uh-huh.
Did any of you guys see this?
No.
So, like, there's, like, a panel with the toolbar up top. There's a panel like with the blue Windows XP borders for the game, and then your characters and the battle menu have a separate panel, and it's like it boots up separate executables. That you have to deal with. That's what it looks like.
Holy shit, this is the most...
That slaps. We are putting this up in the Discord. Let's consider this bonus content for Discord subscribers.
But basically what it is that it initiates, I want to say 6 or 4 executables, and it doesn't even fill the entire screen because I think it was an older, like, it's wild, man.
This is some real classic dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
We don't have enough processing power to give you a big window. This is amazing.
And as you can see, you use F4, F5, F6, F7, F8 to flip through your item screens and the menu options there.
Mm-hmm.
And then those are separate panels. So F4 returns back to your character list or your party list. F5, F6, F7, F8 are kind of the menu and the runes.
So you're saying it would run all that in parallel, basically?
In parallel.
You could be walking around in a map while fiddling with inventory?
Yes.
Oh, that solves some of the issues with this game for me.
But it was just like I had to use like Windows compatibility mode, and it was pretty janky. Obviously, I don't think this version came out to the United States ever.
It did not.
I could be wrong about it. It did not.
Yeah, along with, incidentally, Tokimeki Memorial, which has a PC version that I have definitely played with a little bit. Yeah, so similar. I'll say another Konami joint.
If Konami actually gave a shit about porting their classic games to modern platforms, there are aspects of that Windows release that I actually found. Like Jeff hinted at, needing to fiddle with, like, runes and inventory and equipment in a separate menu and not on the fly fucking sucked shit, and somehow like the Windows version had the solution to it all along. It's a wild thing. I don't recommend it. Took quite a bit of time to get it to work. Like I had to flip Windows compatibility mode all the way to XP just to make it work, even remotely.
It's reasons like this that I have recently come upon some XP media, and I'm this close to spinning up a box just to play basically busted stuff like this, and very, very specifically to my needs, Sid Meier's Sim Golf.
Oh, yeah. Braden and I have talked about this. The only problem that both of us have encountered when we play older era PC games, post-DOS but pre-Windows NT, is that compatibility issues you're going to encounter with like early DirectX versions and like games that required like sound chips or specific sound chips. Like
Windows
the switch
95 and 98 era game that are post-DOS are a fucking nightmare.
They're a nightmare.
I just edited an episode for Hardcore Gaming 101 on Legion, which was a native Windows 3.1 game. So it's not for DOS, and it predates Windows 95. It literally depended on Windows 3.1 hooks, which is really weird. So they, as far as I know, just virtual boxed Windows 3.1 to run this thing. I've got, let's say that game is out there, but I was unable to get any meaningful music out of it, so I had to have one of them basically rip the sole MIDI music file out of that game that they could dump, and then ran that through a Roland MT32 emulator to get the good MIDI sound for the music on that episode.
I have an easier time with old school IBM, like EGA, CGA video games, just because, DOSBox is a thing, but 95, 98, and even probably the hardest one to deal with is Windows ME.
Yeah.
If you're old enough to remember Windows ME, you know that was a teeming tire fire of an operating system. So games that were optimized for it are fucking awful to play today.
Yeah. Was that, oh god damn it, the Blade Runner, the famously hard to run. That was like
the
right
Westwood
in that crease,
Blade
right?
Runner.
Yeah.
That was infamously hard to get running until their recent re-release that Night Dive did.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they had to rip apart that thing and build it from the ground up almost. Redo almost all of it.
Thanks for tuning in to our pre-show
podcast about a JRPG.
Yeah, if you'd like to be a part of discussions on getting old games to run in old versions of Windows, also Suikoden and other hot RPGs, you could consider maybe kicking into patreon.com/deeplistens, patreon.com/deeplistens. That's patreon.com/deeplistens. Kicking in any amount over $1 will get you access to a super secret Discord full of, me and these lads. And you can see this amazing screenshot of Suikoden for the personal computer. You could also, if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you don't like it, you could send complaints about it to inquiries@deep.lol. That's inquiries@deep.lol. That is an email inbox where I will read your emails. And also, just as a fun reminder for those of you who can hear the sound of my voice, or anyone's voice who was on this show, if you have a title that you would like us to look at, and you can make a case that it has RPG mechanics, we're probably going to get around to it sooner than later. That effort will be beginning pretty soon. I think
it's going to be a New Year's resolution for 2022.
Yeah,
handling and processing your requests.
So look forward to that. 2022, the year of deep listens, because we're a community-minded folk. And special shout outs to Joe for getting us started down that road. With that, let's formally kick off talking about, I guess we've been talking about Suikoden, but more Suikoden. This is loosely
a baller-ass video game.
It's baller. It's actually, okay, let's go top level. How much did we play? Let's start there.
I got the 36 stars of heaven, or enough to beat the game. I did not get all 108.
Just the 36?
You can get, is it 36 or 72 that you need? I thought it was I know it's 36 stars of heaven, 36 heavenly spirits, and 72 stars of, was it earth or warriors? It's 36, 36, 72 is all I remember. And you only need half of that amount.
That adds up to 144 tripping.
That is not 108.
Whatever. I got almost maybe slightly above the bare ass minimum to get to the end, and I got to the end. I did not do as much. I didn't get all, 107 characters. I didn't get all of them. I just got, if there was clearly communicated characters with side quests that I felt like I could finish within, a game session of about an hour or two, I got them. When I visited towns and met random yo-hos that seemed like they wanted to join my journey, or if there were characters that were connected directly to the process of finishing the story, they joined me, they were with me, but none of the extremely obtuse quests was completed in general by me.
Braden.
Okay, I was hoping that ZP would be the one to get all 108 people.
Nah,
because I have played half the game, I think, due to various other life things.
Yeah, living.
But yeah, I very quickly was I don't want to follow a guide. I don't want to stare at a FAQ for this game's entire run just so I can get very specific characters who are only available in very specific time frames. Did you know in Suikoden 3 you can recruit every character whenever by the end of the game?
A meaningful improvement over this one for sure. Yeah. I have played this game to completion within the last like 2 or 3 years on a Vita, due to I have a long commute and could just do that in my commute time. And I did a 108 character recruit run for that. I have my last save, and it says 28 hours, which is quite long. That's like, I think, on the very outside of how long you should reasonably play this game. And I've got to tell you, as is clearly demonstrated by ZP, you don't need to do it.
No.
The reward that you get for doing the thing is not incredible necessarily. Yeah.
In the PSP version, is there like some sort of extra cinematic? Because I was told that there's like some sort of extra cinematic or extra story stuff by getting 108 characters.
So there's a little extra business that you get at the end. So I'm just playing the PS1 version native via PSN on a Vita. So pretty much the same business you saw, I guess. Wait, so you said you played the Saturn version?
Yes. Isn't the Saturn version the director's cut?
Is there an English patch?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Yeah, so I was like,
Isn't the Saturn version? I was told the Saturn version is considered a director's cut, which is why I sought it out. I don't know.
I don't know. I cannot speak to that. What does the sole arbiter of truth say?
Genso Suikoden was ported to the Sega Saturn in Japan as the director's cut version. Includes a new event where the pirates Leonardo, Anji, Kanak kidnap one of the girls. Yep, saw that. EK has a unique rune. It has a different opening that is animated in the same style of Genso Suikoden 2. Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, there was an opening anime cinematic that looked like Suikoden 2.
Yeah, that would be kind of an improvement. The opening of the PlayStation version of this is just kind of like very compressed FMV of clips of the game. Like
general item improvements and balancing. Silver armor, for example, does plus 70 defense when added to the game or a character. Tyr can find and raise a cat in his room in the Sega Saturn version.
Oh shit!
That's okay. Clearly, superior game.
Leiden uses the robber's tea on the party. The characters' faces were colored in blue in the Sega Saturn version. Gremo has an additional scene in Anti near the end of the game if you have recruited all the stars. Don't know about that. And 3 additional audio tracks were inside the game that were not included in the PS1 version. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, so notable differences and Fantrand. So if you've got the ability to play that, which Saturn emulation has apparently come a long way.
I only had a couple of quibbles with the fan translation, but it's a lot of fucking text, so I don't blame them for having a couple of, grammatical and syntax errors get by.
Yeah, 108 characters, and they all have not an incredible amount of dialogue, but
enough to where it seems like I don't know, like the multiple efforts to translate different Suikoden games, the fact that they have not been immediate, it is a sign that these games have enough text to make these kind of a pain in the ass to translate.
Sure. And, when you get in the context of this was made in Japan and you have like very different walks of life represented by these characters, I'm sure you get into some like, this has a Kanto accent. This guy has a Kansai accent. Kind of like, how do you actually translate this sort of stuff? So same sort of conversations you've heard from us endlessly.
I think this game is not full Chrono Cross.
No.
Where characters are defined entirely by their accent.
Yeah, there's a lot of space for that to have happened, even very early on in the game. And I think they managed to walk around most of that. I want to talk a little bit very quickly. So this is based on one of the 4 classics of Chinese novel literature, basically, which is called Shui Hu Zhan. Shui Hu Zhan. It's like a down, hard, Zhan. Which is loosely translated as the water margin. It's basically a book about a bandit revolt that's being like very general. It's clustered in alongside things that you may have actually heard of, which are Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Journey to the West, and The Dream of the Red Chamber. All 4 of these have video games based on them. Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it's like a series that's been running for like 40 years. Journey to the West, there's like, I don't know,
1,000 monkey-based video games. Like even Alex the Kid, fucking trash boy that he is kind of based on
Rochambeau with awful. Dream of the Red Chamber in the last 5 years has had a couple VNs based on it released. They're like Chinese domestic games for the most part. But yeah, so they've all been represented in video games, which is kind of wild. Like, I'm trying to think of other, let's say, cultural, like, touchstone books that have had, like they're all represented across other media. Like, they're all very popular films to make in China as well. Like, there's a lot of assy-looking Monkey King films that come out of mainland China. Like, I don't know, like, the idea of, like, yeah, we're gonna make Jarl's Saga, the, 30-hour RPG from Scandinavia seems kind of preposterous. I do think, I don't know, the Lord of the Rings comparison is, like, strangely apt. Like, it's a well that just keeps on spitting stuff out. I think the difference is the public domain nature of these very old, relatively very old
It'd be like
works.
if we made a bunch of video games based on Beowulf instead of just the unfortunate Robert Zemeckis film.
That had some game tie-ins too, didn't it?
I believe there was a video game tie-in.
There's a version of this show that spins off that is just bad tie-in media.
Jesus.
PS360 era bad tie-in stuff. Just we play fucking Avatar, both of them.
There's an Avatar video game.
Yeah, there's two.
1,000 achievement points in 2 minutes.
Basically, if you play Suikoden, you should probably be able to pass the accelerated reader test for water margin. So it's like watching the Harry Potter movie.
I get that. It's because I'm a teacher and I love use accelerated.
Hell yeah. I was
Big
a
ups to my
baller
AR buddies.
reader. It was
the
good
librarians at middle school hated me.
Was reading. I remember taking like the Lost World Jurassic Park AR test when I was like 11, from the book, not the film, because I was a little reader.
Anyways,
yeah, conceptually. Suikoden. This was as I said, late 1995 in Japan. So the JRPG space on the PlayStation 1 was a desert still. This ran basically unopposed for the first year and change of its life in terms of the JRPG space on this platform, which is crazy because when you think about the PlayStation and PS, the entire PlayStation family right now, I guess in some sense, you're very, very, let's go ethnocentric, I guess. It's where JRPGs went, immediately. That's the narrative, right? Square abandoned Nintendo. And that sort of overarching thing. But the first year of its life, it was kind of nothing. I poked around and, God help me, I know things about Japanese, the language, but not perfectly. So I'm probably missing a couple, but scraping the list, it looked like the main RPGs that were out on the PlayStation in Japan prior to this were Wizardry 7, Crime Crackers, which is an edge case, because it's kind of a weird shooter hybrid thing. It was also a launch game. Looks really cool.
Crime Crackers seem interesting.
Yeah, it's up on PSN still. Let's not go down that road. And then Beyond the Beyond, which is maybe the only one of these that anyone's kind of heard of.
The way that it has been presented to me was the reason for this is a lot of those JRPG developers had been developing for the TurboGrafx as well as the Super Nintendo. I'm not going to pronounce it the way that I want to pronounce it.
Super Famicom, excuse me.
And a lot of those developers did not fuck around with the TurboGrafx CD, and for them, they had to make the switch from cartridge-based technology to CD-ROM-based technology, and that was a learning process, or kind of learning how to take full advantage of CD-ROM technology was not an easy transition to do, especially with tentpole franchises.
I think this definitely ties into kind of our last three pick fan translation episode where we played a handful of late era SNES games, because it seems like in 95, 96, a lot of JRPGs were still being made for the Super Famicom, even if they weren't coming out in the US. but like Chrono Trigger came out in 95.
And then,
Perhaps you've heard
I
of
mean,
it.
we think of like, it's weird to think of it, but this game is a friendly reminder of like, we think of the PS1 being the console that really hammered home that, oh, this is when everyone transitioned from 2D to 3D. But even during the late era of the PS1 and even into the PS2, like developers did not make that switch. It's kind of like apocrypha, right? Like the idea that everyone switched to 3D. I mean, yes, I think it was Nintendo on the Nintendo 64 says, we built a 3D fucking GPU. You have to make your games 3D on our console, supposedly, as the story goes, which is why certain developers like Capcom's like, we're not making a 3D fucking Mega Man game. Fuck you. We're going back to PlayStation. But there were a lot of games on the PS1 that were still old school kind of 2D, almost 16-bit looking games with like, Mode 7-esque like advancements in that like pseudo movement, fast-paced kind of depth of field look.
Yeah, to venture into territory I'm a little shaky on. The PlayStation, so it's a good at polygon manipulation system, and it's good at behaving like it can manipulate sprites the same, but what it's actually doing is manipulating polygons that look like sprites.
Mm-hmm.
So Konami, I'm not going to pull up a full list, so, let's armchair lawyer me after this. Maybe I'll edit something in. They clung to 2D on the PlayStation for quite a while. Like, they famously got kind of browbeaten in 97 when they released Castlevania Symphony of the Night, aka a goddamn masterpiece, because it was not a 3D game. Like, magazines of, like, showing stills of Castlevania 64 and being like, look at this amazing 3D action game versus this. It's old. It's got 2D. It looks like your granddad's game. And it's like, you are all fucking insane. Like, I'm not even a huge
game magazines of the 90s are a bunch of fucking morons.
Yeah,
I think we can.
It's so dumb. Like, the worst.
Yes, this is a real PC screenshot.
Yeah, like, I don't know. Yeah, and it's not even, it goes deeper than that. Like, I don't know, for half the reason the Saturn gets murdered in the US because Bernie Stoller was like, we can't have 2D games on this thing, and they look like butt. Just actively stabbing this thing in the neck as often as he can. But yeah, there's amazing 2D games on the PlayStation. It's just, I think what they're doing in a technical sense is it is a polygon with a sprite on it that is being manipulated and bounced around. And that, I think, explains some of, the weird look of Suikoden sometimes. Because there's some weird shit going on when things get scaled in this game that do not look incredible. But yeah, has anyone here played Beyond the Beyond? Because that was kind of its main competitor at this point.
I've heard infamous things about Beyond the Beyond.
For reference, when this came out in the US, like about a year later, it was pre-Wild Arms and pre-Final Fantasy VII. Like, it was also kind of unopposed in the United States and Europe. But even then, Beyond the Beyond had predated it. No one talks about that fucking thing. Like, nobody. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's pretty crazy. Like, I think a lot of why this game has endured, because it is a pretty simple game, is just on the back of ran unopposed for a good long while in both territories.
I mean, that's part of the reason why there are a lot of people who will convince you that Battle Arena Toshindin's a good video game.
Right. Ugh. Awful. It just makes me mad thinking about it. People preferred that over Virtua Fighter on the Saturn. Go to hell. You're all broken.
But it was a Saturn killer.
Tekken 2 is pretty
even though
good.
they then ported it to the Saturn. Okay, we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
$2.99.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons things broke the way they did. But yeah, Suikoden. So this game is a Pokemon. It's a JRPG that is mechanically pretty basic. And I don't think it's necessarily going to bowl you over with like insane new ideas, but it has a couple things that I think it does remarkably well for its era. The main one I want to highlight right off the bat is it has one of the best auto battle features I've ever seen.
I was going to say, let's all, on the count of 3, say our favorite mechanic in this game, and the auto battler is probably my favorite thing. I think that if you God damn it, if they did an HD remaster of this game and it had a fast forward feature, God, I would be on fucking cloud nine with this thing.
You would also finish this game in 5 hours.
Indeed.
It would be great though. But anyways, yeah, the auto battler is actually smart. It makes informed decisions, which is, which makes every attempt that Square has made at an auto battler system all the more baffling.
Yeah,
it's good. What else is there to say?
The one time I haven't, so like I said, I replayed the first 5 hours of this. So I had an extensive 28-hour get every one of the boys and girls version of this in the past, where I probably used auto battle, I don't know, half the time once I accepted that it was actually good, actually. But this one, the first 5 hours of this, I exclusively auto battled except for boss, and it's kind of two things. One, it works. Two, the experience yields of this game are very informing. It's almost like these people at Konami were at one point very, very good at the craft of making responsive, fun video games. But the first handful of levels you're walking around auto battling, and experience yields are very large. You are leveling quite quickly, and then they tail off very rapidly, as if to indicate you're kind of done grinding here, buddy. You don't need to keep going. You're good. You can, I guess, keep fighting weevils or whatever the fuck you want for a while. But to get to your next level doing that here, you may as well spend half an hour doing it, or just go fight the next, toad or whatever it is. That's good feedback. It feels good. It makes you feel like the game is responding to you when you play it. There's an active conversation. It's good. It feels good. I don't know. I enjoy it.
I mean, what are the
bloops? The UI makes a very good bloop sound.
Oh,
it's got a good. Can we actually say the word? Is M gonna not get mad if we say the word? It has good game juice.
I think the auto battling and then dumping, how quickly it dumps experience, just the way the numbers go up on the screen, it's a weird thing to highlight. But that experience counter goes just rips bam, 850 XP. And then it doesn't give you a ton of you leveled up. It's just the numbers just increment, they go. It's sort of like how they increment in Tokimeki. Things just kind of are moving. It's so quick. That feels like juice to me. I think that is an identifiable game juice thing.
It has responsive UI.
Yes.
Inventory management, still very awkward.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But by golly, when you click them buttons...
The inventory management, I think I might be the only one. Jeff, have you ever played a Lunar game?
No.
No.
Tell us about
it reminds me, Lunar has AI, which is, I think, if I recall correctly, the AI button is the auto battler system, but it's AI, attack, magic, item, defend, run. Those are your commands, and it's on this 3x3 square-based grid, and it kind of reminded me of Suikoden kind of reminded me of that system. The problem with the menu system here is that everything has two or three things on top of two or three things, and it's almost as if they're trying to graft. It's not a mechanically complex game. I think we can agree to that, but there are enough mechanics here to where needing to make all of these different pieces work or communicate was fiddly and slippery enough that I felt sometimes frustrated to fiddle around with these menu systems, right? So with a character, you would have fight, run, bribe, free will, right? Those are the four that sometimes you see depending on your character class, and there's variations of that. And it's just even when you click something like magic, you then have to click magic, then fiddle through and fan through that system. And that screen on the upper left-hand corner of the thing is just not big enough, and I wanted it to have the Super Nintendo size to the fan through menu part, but it didn't do that. It always pissed me off.
It's pokey.
Yes.
You wind up being when I'm not auto battling, it is for bosses, and that is the thing I am doing, is fiddling around with magic and then getting this gets to the character part of this, trying to get the unity attacks off correctly. Killer Joy.
Oh, what about the one-on-one battles that are basically Alex Kidd rock paper scissors bullshit?
So yeah.
Well, based on what they say, if they're gonna. I looked this up.
Oh yeah, I looked that up as well.
Yeah, you can rock paper scissors your way.
There's a lot of rock paper scissors because the army battle mechanic is basically a rock paper scissors format as well.
Yep.
Which once you realize the rock, paper, scissors, it's like, this is the Imperial Army. This is the size of the Liberation Army. Once you understand the rock, paper, scissors format of that, like those numbers mean jack shit.
Yeah.
This game tries a lot. Like there's that army battle, there's the mono battles, there's a rune-based system, which adds even more different type of battle types and abilities and menus, which are just, again, fiddly. There's not a lot to this, but they add extra stuff, which is not always easy to do. And I don't know about you, but there just came a point where I wanted to delete bribe. Like I wanted to delete that command because I was never using it.
I never used that either.
I'm not giving them my money.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
and take their money.
But also it's like, I'm not using this. I wish I could delete this, which you can actually do in the Windows version.
Hell yeah.
It's just...
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think I actively dislike the fiddlier aspects of the rune system.
Having to go to a specific building in town to attach or remove runes.
If it was just a menu, which is, again, why when I was playing the Windows version, it's like, this is so much better.
Yeah.
And they give you a lot of runes. They give you, I mean, you get the story-based runes, which are different than the, like, unique or the common runes. Like, there's so many different types of runes. Mm-hmm. And they can all be like bolted onto 3 categories like attack, magic, and support. They oddly enough reminded me of the materia system in Final Fantasy VII, but PS1 era Final Fantasy VII. They kind of get better as you use them. They kind of get better as you kind of progress the story. So stuff that you get at the end of the game is better than the stuff that you pick up at the start of the game. But it's like, I mean, and we can kind of talk about this. Because of this game's rock, paper, scissors, like super simplified Fire Emblem, late 16-bit era Fire Emblem, I just didn't feel motivated to get fully invested into Magic when my physical attackers were just basically able to murder almost everything on their own.
Yeah, or, you know, the most useful spell by a country mile is that rune, the Doom, your pro tag spell. Like it just dissolves shit, basically.
This is of that era, and I think Braden can back me up. This is something even in CRPGs where the protagonist is the best character by a country mile, by a lot.
Yeah, and it makes sense why. I mean, like, the, you know, demerit of this game ultimately is like inventory fiddly shit, and then you stack that to also you've got something like, you know, 108 characters, and a quorum of those are playable characters. So, like, you're rotating those in and out as you find newer ones that are better and, like, shit-canning old ones immediately. And then the game sort of turns into shuffle equipment around, and I don't know if I want to use this rune on this guy because someone else is going to come along that may be better suited for this. It led to me not using the rune system a whole hell of a lot, frankly, when I played it, and I did barely touched it going through this first chunk of it again. Because I was like afraid of committing, basically, of getting stuck with people. I think at a certain point I wound up with like my crew, and it was basically the characters from the beginning of the game just because they wound up stacking the most levels on them over time. Makes sense. I looked at my last save and I was like level like high 50s for everyone in my closing party.
So Suikoden 3, which is the one I played literally a decade ago at this point. Oh geez, I'm old. That game very much sticks you with an ensemble that you basically have to deal, like, it is based on when you have them in the story, and you don't get the ability to freely swap party members in and out until very late in the game, which, you know, sometimes you want to do the thing that I do with Fire Emblem games and to just pick all the shitty characters and try to make them useful. And I once again briefly was like, I'm gonna use all the bad characters, and that lasted about, once again, 10 minutes before going, nah, I'm just going to pick the characters whom I can click the auto battle button and just finish everything off immediately.
Yeah, get results as quick as possible. I remember being particularly fond of Luke and one of the
Luke.
The blacksmith. There you go.
Speaking of Suikoden 3.
Good blacksmiths in Suikoden 3.
No, Luke is very important to the story of Suikoden 3.
Huh.
Yeah.
There is continuity in this series for what it is worth.
Intriguing.
Which is characters
interesting.
Who are in the first 3 games. Yes.
But it sure is this is sure one of those games where you kind of realize how much you're going to get out of a character within one battle. It's very Fire Emblem-esque in that regard. Tell when a character is going to give you jack shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And also, and I don't know if this is a good thing, and I don't know if this is a bad thing, but once I got a cadre of characters that I felt good with, I never felt motivated to swap things out unless a character was immediately just the best.
I aligned with that, I think, overall.
If there was an EXP sharing mechanic, I would have totally been down with like characters swap in, swap out. Like if there was some mechanic to keep new characters that I recruited later than normal, or like sometimes the characters just join your party and they've got nothing. It's like, I don't have the patience to bring you back up to par.
Yeah, and you kind of get around that with equipment, which I guess leads to, if we want to talk briefly, I think my favorite character in this game by far is named Rock, which is a character who I couldn't tell you what he said or what he did or what he liked, but I can tell you that he operates the storage room in your castle, which is a very, very important little feature that I think is optional. I don't know if Rock is a required character. I'm looking at a wiki page and it is not telling me one way or another. But it is a space where you can walk up and say, hey, take all the equipment off of like all of these dudes in my party. Then I can dismiss them. Then I can get new dudes in my party and then walk back up to Rock and be like, hey, just auto equip basically. Like give me all. So, this man winds up operating a room with like 500 swords and 700 leather tunics and 500 hubcaps of Ventuzler, and just be like, oh, yeah, you're about 5'6" and you don't like swords, you like bows. Here you go. It saves a lot of time.
What surprised me with the characters in this game was how much it's not just black and white. There are your regular sword and board types. There are your regular magicians and magic casters, and this is the nice thing about the rune system. Because of the rune system, you have physical hitters that can also cast magic. You have archers that also can pop off a fireball. You have a lot of gray in between the spectrum of classes because you have those weird magical warriors that can carry actually good equipment while also just dropping the best spells in the game. And you have those, those martial artists like what's his name? Ronnie and Ike, which they're like monks, but then they can also use runes. And so there's a pretty interesting complexity with the characters not being some of your usual standby character classes.
Yeah.
There are a lot of amalgam classes in this game, but consequences is that you can miss out on a lot of these characters. You can also just not get invested in certain classes, and there are a lot of just general support characters as well as clones. The number of characters that are just clones of other characters is a bummer. I understand that there are a lot of 108 is a lot, but there are so many bad Lukes or bad Sheenas or bad Victors in this game.
Yeah, their net contribution is during the strategic battles, they are 2 pictures next to Luke's for the whatever the fuck character type Luke was. That just make a number slightly bigger, that make those battles even more trivial. And then they have a sprite that stands somewhere in this large castle and, says, I think maybe 1 of 2 lines of dialogue when you walk up to them. And it's usually like, I'm glad I'm part of this rebellion. Or, I resent being part of this rebellion, but I guess I have no choice. It's a hell of a thing. That is, I collected all of them. And, like I said, a plurality, not a majority of them are playable characters as far as I know. But most of them just do nothing. They kind of stand around. Some of them add features to your castle.
Stuff in your castle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
But, like, some of them, the cool stuff is stand there.
Yeah.
Some of them, the cool stuff is now there's a store that you don't need to go to a town.
Well, the weird thing is because there are a lot of characters who can punch or use swords and long swords and carry armor around and cast magic, like your dedicated magic casters like Luke and Hellion, I was like, fuck you. I would rather have someone with good health and can cast magic or use runes rather than just dedicated magic caster.
Yeah. 6 people in a party makes for some weird choices around like how to stack and rack people on top of everything else too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I guess Suikoden 3 is the one where they cut down the party size to 3, right?
No.
Or 4?
No.
Is that one?
4 is the one where they cut down the party size to 4 people.
4 people.
Ew. Fuck that.
It just feels
Stop
like
building an army. You should have a bigger cast.
I
Fuck
want a giant posse. 3 does some interesting stuff with like character lanes, basically. And it has been, once again, it has been a literal decade since I played that game, but I was surprised to learn that a lot of that game's quirks are exclusive to that game.
Huh.
But
anyways,
forward to our Suikoden
I feel
3
like
show.
this is one of those things where when people say they really like Suikoden, they don't mean the first game. When like this game is solid. I had a good time for what I played of it. I will finish it. But I get the impression that people are talking about 2.
Yeah, it is the Mega Man series issue where this is definitely fine. It's a viable game from start to finish, and it is absolutely smoked in almost every meaningful metric by its follow-up.
Sure. It's like Street Fighter 1. Actually, no, this is better than Street Fighter 1. Street Fighter 1 is a bad game.
Yeah. It's
unless we find and track down one of those fucking arcade cabinets with the pressure sensitive buttons, because then
I've played that in the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection,
man,
and then I've recently. It's funny you bring this up. I was playing the PC Engine CD version of Fighting Street not 48 hours ago. Fighting Street with a genuine PC Engine controller on a genuine PC Engine. And that version also sucks shit. It's terrible.
Anyways, the one thing I do find surprising, and we kind of do need to jump into the story, what surprised me is it reminded me of an Elder Scrolls game in that while you're completing quests, while you're trying to beat this evil empire, as boring and bland and vanilla as that might be, I was kind of surprised at like how interesting some of the B plots were. Like, it's like, I went to this weird place and they're getting terrorized by this evil vampire dude who seems to be just as big a threat as the evil empire. All right, I guess I'm going to go down this path that leads me to beating Necklord or whatever the fuck his name was. And it's like there's weird side quests and like off plots and B plots that I actually kind of enjoyed in this game.
There's a pretty involved like side plot where to get the top blacksmith, you need to recruit every other blacksmith in the world, basically, and they all have kind of like a sequential name issue thing going on that is the key to unlocking the like top level weapons in the game, which I think all the weapons were upgradable if I'm not mistaken. It's the whole point of having blacksmiths. So that sticks out to me as having been kind of fun. There was some like side condition on that I'm forgetting, sure. There's fun little goofy mechanics to recruit some of the people, as has been alluded to. Like some of this is based around gambling. Like there's a dice based game of chance that you are kind of required to engage with to get some of these people. Well, that
leads us to, while overall I would say I had a fun time recruiting characters, some of the requirements for getting characters is bullshit.
Yes. I did all of them. I'm telling you, it's bullshit. So.
Okay, talk about some of your highlights, because when I noticed that something was complete bullshit, I said, nah, peace, I'm just going to get the normal ending.
I mean...
What are some of the most bullshit recruitment requirements, Jeff?
You know, it's been a moment, but again, one of them involves a game of chance. Let me tell you, I'm playing Psychonauts 2 right now, and there's a boss fight where, for reasons I won't get into, you need to pull food out of vomit to throw into a big tube, and there's like a 1 in 5 chance that a food item will be what you need that you're digging out of vomit. It's charming. So this is the part of the game my wife saw. She's like, this? Really? Random shit sucks. It's not good. So yeah, having to gamble
time
some of your
sensitive
real
characters
money
that you didn't realize were time sensitive.
Yes. Stuff that, like, go revisit this area you cleared a long time ago, and like
there's that dude just hidden behind a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The antagonist from Suikoden 2 is just in an abandoned house somewhere, who's a recruitable character. You just kind of need to go into every single building everywhere in the world all the time.
Oh.
That's good.
Braden, let's talk about Xavier and Thracia.
Oh, yeah.
Or Stefan.
Oh, boy. Recruiting Xavier in Fire Emblem Thracia 776 is something I did with significant amounts of
it's
save
one of the
state
most
abuse.
evil it's one of the most evil character recruitment things I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
It is absolute bullshit, and he is a bad character.
That's the best part. That's the best part. Is that he's one of the worst characters. Yeah. Anyways, Jeff, what we're suggesting is you don't even know.
I think this is on that level, just a little less bullshit RNG.
Yeah.
I'm rooting through here. I found a Reddit list of recommended bad characters. So a lot of them are highlighting Esmeralda from Suikoden 1 as a useless person who like stacks onto one of the like strategic battle globs, and that is it. Hulon, Klon, Yamku, people are complaining about. I feel like I used the Fisher people in a gang for a while. They were an alright like team up fight thing. A couple of people are shouting out Gremio sucking shit, which is funny for plot reasons.
Yeah,
they kind of turn into a sledge. And shame on me for not replaying this whole game, I guess, because it's been, like I said, maybe like 2 years or so. But when you wind up with 108 mooks, and most of your time spent with them is, oh, you've got a portrait, I should recruit you. And then you stand in a castle and maybe you operate the shop that tells me like what my antiques are. I don't have a lot of like attachment to this person. It becomes like a spreadsheet. Like how people who are not me play Pokemon. Just like, I'm turning the animations off, baby. This is just, I'm gonna throw this rat at this cockroach until it fucking dies. The game. Like, just, I don't know. People who buy horse racing video games just to gamble fake money.
I'm going to breed this Pokemon over and over again until the numbers are as high as I need them to be.
I don't know. At a certain point, the characters kind of devolve into a little bit of a sludge, and I don't think the story helps, which I guess is maybe the thing we've danced around a little bit. I'm looking at the Soul Arbiter of Truth Wikipedia's article on Suikoden 1. The plot part of this article is 3 paragraphs. The events of the first 3 to 5 hours account for about 90% of that. And then the rest of the game is summarized in about 2 or 3 sentences. I think that's appropriate. This is a story light game. Most of the like impetus for wanting to do the thing in this game, which is lead a rebellion against an evil empire, which, boo-hoo, it's like a rote in like 90% of these games. That's what you get. It's like you're a lad, your dad is a general for an empire that is losing its way. He gets sent on some let's fucking off this guy because he's a square mission. That happens, and you sort of get caught up in a nascent rebellion, and you're sort of handed the keys to the kingdom by the leader of that rebellion. Maybe the one wrinkle on it is the person who hands you the keys is like, I'm dying, dead though. Which, so you're sort of a shadow leader, or I don't know. The actual ruler of this rebellion faction is long dead at a certain point. And I guess some of the dramatic irony here is everyone's like, yeah, Odessa was the name of this rebellion leader. Like, let's do this for Odessa. Odessa's ordered us to do this. And you're like, no, they didn't. I know they didn't. They're dead. They don't know. Like, that's the clever thing. But otherwise, a very triumphantalist sort of, we got more guys, and then we fought the Empire again. and we won again, and we took their general, and now he lives in my castle too. And then we set up for another battle. We went on a little side mission about this vampire, but that set us up for another one of these strategic battles. And like a cycle. It's cyclical. Happens 5 or 6 times. At the end, you fight a dragon. That's the plot of Suikoden, right? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, Tyr's a kind of like a nothing character.
He looks like someone trying to draw in like the Square House style. He has things about him that are very Locke-esque.
He got that bandana.
He's got that like stubborn, I don't know, I guess he looks, trying to think of Konami.
He fights with a bow staff. Well,
that's cool.
He's like Dragon Ball, right? Like Goku.
His best friend is a 300-year-old wraith that gives him like a cursed rune, which lets him like
can we talk about how
off.
Like his best friend's a ghost?
Yep.
Ghost friend is, I guess, a cool wrinkle, but it's done in like the first couple hours. It's not the most remarkable story.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I like how in the English translation, the first antagonist is Commander Craze.
Yes.
Yep.
Coolest, most dapper looking dude ever, like Captain Hook looking mofo.
They're silly.
There's definitely. I wouldn't say this is a scuffed translation so much as it is a translation of the era.
Sure.
It's not Revelations Persona bad.
No, it's just I think there's enough text to where it seems like they had to pay someone to translate it, but not enough to where they wanted to actually like have a quality translation from what I've seen of the PlayStation release.
It's
the
dry.
Sony.
It's dry, it's serviceable. I think that the material they had to start with wasn't exactly like earth-shattering anyway. So it didn't require, a Vagrant story level treatment per se. It required functional writing, and it got functional writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, inventory management, rune management, some disappointing like lack of characters being characters, I suppose. Like, these things do stack up, but when you add it all together...
when it's fun.
Yeah.
When it's fun, it's fun. And I thought that, when the story kind of sort of kicks in, when Tyr, I don't even
the main
remember.
character,
The main character, when you have to, like, figure out what's up with his
Kun.
dad, like, that's when the story starts to get a little bit more interesting. You have to check out, like I saw YouTuber.
Uh-huh.
I always saw that as YouTuber, so I had a little fun in my head canon. But and then Sonya's fun. Then there's dragons. I don't know. I thought there was a little bit more.
Silverberg.
Yeah, I thought there was a little bit
introducing
more
a lot of
story,
tropes that would appear throughout the series, like getting a sick castle and getting a Silverberg.
There was a sense of progression to this story that I appreciated, and I cannot emphasize this point enough. This is a 20-hour JRPG, and that is not something to laugh at. There's a sense of progression with Suikoden that I feel like some of our earlier games on this series we have been missing.
Yes.
And I know that this is where Braden says, but 3 Ages, the Lord of the Rings game is a 25-hour experience. It's like, that's a 25-hour experience that feels like it's 60.
Yeah.
This felt like a 20-hour game.
This is
I'm glad
a breezy fucking game, and it's a good time.
Yeah, like the functional ho-hum plot at least does keeps itself out of the way. Like, I don't know, it's a weird thing to praise, I suppose, but I don't know, you could latch onto it pretty easily as a result. Like, it's not trying to explain complicated, invented metaphysical concepts. It's like there's a rebellion against an empire, and you need to prepare for a major pitched battle against them. Okay. And then, you won the battle. Cool. Here's like the immediate effect of that. Like the plot is stepping forward. It doesn't keep you stuck in its loops so long, as opposed to something like Lord of the Rings Third Age, which feels the same. Like the entire length of it is sort of a gruel, I guess. Like there's very little to differentiate like any particular moment of gameplay from the other. I guess this has the difference between those like individual random encounters and strategic battles, and then the one-on-one duels, and not that it's my favorite part of this game, but like optimizing, let's go with that, inventory and character shit along the way. It's better than the sum of its parts. And a part we haven't even talked about yet. It also has, I think, a standout soundtrack.
Sure.
Like, it is very, very good.
There's that part where Psycho Mantis will read your memory card and he'll ask you if you like Suikoden.
That is my favorite part of this game.
Yes.
This is where we get to rank Metal Gear Solid.
Bottom.
Oh God. Fuck
Best.
that. Fuck off.
Very
I
good
hate
game.
you.
We're not. This is not a Metal Gear podcast. I refuse.
I would.
Metal Gear
I'm
is
gonna
mainstream
veto
and
Metal Gear.
boring. Metal
I
Gear
like-
Acid, on the other hand, that's probably an RPG, right?
No card. No cards. Bot and Kaitos, go to hell. No cards.
Wait, you're not gonna let us play Bot and Kaitos?
Fuck cards.
You're not going to let us play Phantasy Star Online 3 CARD Revolution?
Did you know that Warren Spector says this is his 6th favorite video game of all time?
Okay.
As of 2007. It's true.
Man said, I could make Deus Ex.
He credited it as an inspiration on his work, particularly the Deus Ex series, as well as Epic Mickey. What?
Okay, I found the same list. His 12 favorite games. Yep, Suikoden. It's 12. Twilight Princess. He picked the wrong one.
All
Ico,
right, buddy.
Warcraft 2, Ultima 4, Tetris. Of course, Warren Spector likes Ultima 4. Tetris, Super Mario 64, Suikoden, Ocarina of Time, Link to the Past, Half-Life, Guitar Hero, and Diablo is number 1.
Okay.
Like-
yeah, sure.
You know, I can't bitch about that too much, I guess.
You put Twilight Princess on this list?
I don't want to put Warren Spector on blast too much.
Yeah, you know,
Guys,
But-
retired from the industry and is enjoying his retirement.
like
Good for
enjoy
you.
what you like, right?
Anyways,
I don't know if there's much more to say about Suikoden, frankly. I don't know if you need to sit and savor the plot beats of this one necessarily, because they're insubstantial. But if you like making the numbers go up, this is actually a really great time, and it's still available for all of $10 on PSN.
This game is definitely setting up things that will be paid off in Suikoden 2 in terms of world building and shit, but as a self-contained story,
Yeah.
it's anime.
Which is going to
It's-
make...
It's the rule of JRPGs, which are kingdoms are good, republics are good, empires are bad.
Sure.
Yeah, like the what is okay? You're an American history guy. I'm a history
Yes.
guy. ZP is a cultural expert, I guess. Like people, like MSNBC calling him all the time. What's the difference between a kingdom and an empire?
One of them is evil.
There you go. Okay.
Suikoden.
If we were to hypothetically put Suikoden on a tier list of every RPG ever made, would that be
did we-
fun? Would we
Yeah,
like that?
I mean, I guess we could do that.
Yeah.
Seems like a game that I would put, say, below Grandia 2.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Well, okay. Let's start in the middle, which is right now Soma Bringer. We up or down on that?
Better than Soma Bringers.
Better than Soma Bringer.
You're going to sabotage my plan.
But Bahamut Lagoon.
It's probably better than Bahamut Lagoon.
Sure.
Came out the same time.
Yeah, which is
Is
weird to
more
think
comprehensible.
about. How about Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, etc.?
Yes, it's
It's better
better.
than that one.
It's better.
Ultima 4, Quest of the Avatar.
Better.
It's better.
All right, so then the actual fight here, I guess. Well, one of a couple. So Grandia 2 above this.
Yes.
God damn it. Is this better than Grandia 2? Because, as you know, I think that Grandia 2 is the best game we played for this podcast. So, no, I actually think I enjoyed Grandia 2 more than Suikoden. But I enjoyed it more than Xenosaga, you fuckers.
You just hate Audacity.
Sabotage my
The
plan.
virtue of Audacity.
Okay, so if I had to recommend to people, like just hey, I want to play a JRPG here, and here's the 3 that I think I've they pulled out 3 cards, right? They're like, I'm thinking I should either start with either Suikoden, Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Zermacht, or Grandia 2. I would go, who told you this? Stop talking to them.
Those people are fucking criminals.
Yeah,
Take their podcast away from them.
Yeah. And honestly, I would probably then say play Suikoden.
Because Suikoden it's short.
It's short. You will learn things about, like, the pratfalls of this medium, the successes of this medium, the various strengths and weaknesses of trying to tell a story through a role-playing game. Like, I think Suikoden is a good vertical slice of JRPG in the 90s. I think Xenosaga Episode 1 is like a really good exemplar of like the excesses of the genre, and Grandia 2 is like a good all-rounder. I think I might recommend. Yeah.
This just reminds me of when Gino, Jeff, and I record a Final Fantasy podcast, and Gino asks, "Is this better than Final Fantasy X?" No. Is this better than Final Fantasy IX? Yes.
Yeah.
Every single time we have that debate, it's like,
most of them are better than Final Fantasy IX.
It's a fucking bad game. It's a good game.
So I think I'd put Suikoden at the top of this list, honestly.
Yes, sure. As long as we don't have to say the best game we play is the greatest JRPG of all time. As long as we can say that.
Yeah, like we will probably put many games above Suikoden.
Yeah, like Xenosaga Episode 2 and 3.
Yeah, I've heard those are really good.
I've heard those are definitely not messy and disappointing.
Hey, remember when they...
Looking forward to this.
Remember Braden, when you tried to play Suikoden 4?
Oh, boy.
We might have to actually play Suikoden 4, Jeff.
We might have to play some of these other Suikoden games.
Is Suikoden 4 a Kusoge pick, Braden?
No, it just seems like
it just has a shitty encounter rate.
Yeah, it seems like a game they invented like 2x speed up in emulators for, basically.
And then remember when they were like, hey, okay, you guys said you hated 3D graphics, so we brought back the 2D in 5, but we also kept all of the bad mechanical shit from 5, so you still got to deal with that shit.
I mean, Suikoden 5...
You only have 2 skill slots in Suikoden 5 for all your characters.
The most valuable game I own, so...
Picked it up for less than $100 some time ago. Some time ago.
Apparently
my copy of Lollipop Chainsaw is worth a lot now. I don't know. I got in at a very appropriate time on like PS3 gen stuff, and should just play and beat some of these things and trade them in for stuff that I'm excited about, because when I think about Lollipop Chainsaw, I go, yeah, that seems like a cromulent time. Okay. It as Morrissey puts it, it says nothing to me about my life. Yeah, Suikoden, top of the list.
What's the future for this podcast, gentlemen?
To quickly run down this list before we continue now, top to bottom, bottom to top, I guess. Let's go bottom to top. So Draken,
past to front.
Shout out to M. Palladino, who is really strip mining Draken for all of the content it has. Revengers of Vengeance, Aka Battlemania, Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, Game Boy Advanced Edition, Arabian Nights fan translation, Lord of the Rings: Third Age console edition, East 3, all versions, Soma Bringer, Bahamut Lagoon, Fire Emblem 1, Ultima 4, Grandia 2, Xenosaga Episode 1, and Suikoden 1, Aka Genso Suikoden. That's it. That's best. Those are all the RPGs. That's good shit. The future.
I believe, Jeff, it is your turn to pick.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I go after you. So remember, actually, no, it's Braden, then Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 2022, the year of fan contributions, but we're actually going to kick things off in 2021. Thanks to contributor, emailer, Joe Brown, who recommended at the top of his list Tecmo, Secret of the Stars. So that's what I want to do. I want to look at Tecmo's Secret of the Stars for the Super Nintendo.
You know, Tecmo, makers of JRPGs.
Yeah.
When you think JRPGs, you think, yes, the Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden and Dynasty Warriors people.
He described it as a Vietnamese bootleg of a Hong Kong bootleg of a JRPG, which has me very excited.
Yeah, just... is this one of those games where Jeff has to say, find it out there?
I don't know if this has been made available anywhere at any point in time. You know, let's check the internet.
Tecmo, Secret of the Stars.
There's a wiki article. That seems to be endemic to the Super Nintendo. I see no...
Yep.
No virtual console, none of that.
When I Googled Tecmo Secret of the Stars, one of our favorite sites for playing games purposes popped up. So it's yes. Secret of the Stars, dear listener, if you wish to join us, is out there.
Yeah.
However you can.
Yeah, Secret of the Stars, also known as Octalion in Japan. I don't know how they wind up with Secret of the Stars from that.
I forget. Let's set a target to play a chunk of this game and make a determination if we finish it, because I'm not getting any good gauge of how long this will take.
I have a feeling when we record in roughly 2 to 3 weeks from now, let's just see how far each of us have gotten. And if we've fallen wildly in love, maybe that will be our holiday episode as well. Otherwise, I think we kind of have talked about another plan.
Yeah, we have an idea for a holiday episode.
Maybe this will just wow us, knock our socks off.
Knock us on our backs, knock our socks off, knock off our underwear, all our parts clanging about as we're coming to terms with Tecmo's Secret of the Stars being the best Super Nintendo RPG since Chrono Trigger.
2022 is also going to be the year of me finally getting my CRPG agenda in here.
Yes.
Yeah, what the fuck? Can we talk about this? We started this series because of CRPGs being poorly represented on the main podcast, and then y'all bring these JRPG games into here?
It's not my fault that I've played most of the weird CRPGs.
I'm just saying that we had a plan, Braden. We had a plan.
Motherfuckers, we're going to play a wizardry game sometime in 2022.
I've got a good pick. If you're in the Discord, you know what my next pick is.
I know what your next pick is, and I am excited for that.
I just need to get baptized by fire in some of this shit, I've never played through even like a tenth of a Troika game. There's a lot I haven't seen.
Oh, Jesus. You want to start with Troika? I thought we were going to ease you in with Baldur's Gate or Planescape.
You got to go hard. I've played enough Planescape to know what it is.
You want to go hard.
Okay, we're playing Planescape. Okay.
Yeah, I like Planescape.
It's
quite good. But, anyway, that is it. Check my Secret of the Stars. Get it any way you can. Thank you for tuning into this installment of Off the Deep End. Please send any and all questions and inquiries to inquiries@deep.lol. That's where those go. Including you should probably look at this game. Also, if you'd like to consider sliding a little bit of dosh to keep the lights on here at the Deep Listens mothership and or tower, patreon.com/Deep Listens. That's a place you can do that. Get you access to a Discord where you can, maybe get some previews of what is coming up on this show and other shows. Take part in fun discussions, plans. Wonder if we should do a gift swap or something. Anyway, that'd be fun. Special shout out goes to the artist note of SuperSex420 for providing us with the podcast theme Halfway, which is a fine song, along with other hot SuperSex420 tracks which are available on their Bandcamp. Thank you, ZP.
I'm not going to say anything inappropriate other than one time I tried to be a vegetarian like Gino, and I turned into a chocolate fountain.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you. Thank you, Braden.
I think we should have played Ogre Battle 64 and ruined everything. But hey, this game is good.
My university library gave me a copy of Ogre Battle 64. I'm looking at it right now. It is crazy. I checked out Ogre Battle 64. Bonkers. I love this idea. Thanks. I'll see you all next time. And remember, there's no such thing as cheating in a single-player game. Goodbye.
Bye.
This episode of Off the Deep End was recorded and edited on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Nisqually or Nisqually people, who have lived on and stewarded these lands and waters since times immemorial.